So now I've got the top of my trousers here. I've got them inside out, so the right side of it is on the inside. And what I'm going to do, if I locate, this is actually the centre back. Here's the centre front with my sort of two pockets. The seam that's on my waistband, you know that seam there, I'm going to place that to my centre back of my trouser down on the inside. And what we're going to be doing is stretching that waistband to fit all the way around the top of that trouser. This is where those chalk marks come in very useful. You've got to start sewing, and then what we'll do, we'll work our way around. We know where our chalk mark is. Oh, there it is. There's our chalk mark. So that, as we go, should line up. You stretch it in, and that should line up with your side seam. Let me show you here. So that chalk mark corresponds with the side seam. And you would keep working your way around the trouser, making sure those chalk marks correlate with the quarter sections that you've marked. So if I place that to the machine, let's just get going. So you're wanting to sew probably on top of those stitches that you already had. Okay, so what I'm doing, I've got my whole trouser and I'm stretching my waistband on. So you're pulling the waistband with your top hand and you're just checking that the waist of the trouser is nice and flat, and you just want to stitch on top of that row of stitching that you had. I'm going to snip. I tend to snip at this point the threads as I go. Just get them out of the way, and you just want to keep going. So if these chalk marks line up, then hopefully you're going to find you got a good result. Going to fit onto your trouser. There we go. And so now I've got to the side seam. I want to now stretch my waistband on. I've got my chalk mark. This is going to go to the centre front. So as long as I match that up, if you want at this point, you could put a pin in it just to help you, you know, if that helps you. And then you can see, you pull it. This is the section that you need to stitch together. And if we have our, push that down so you can see. I'm going to again just encourage the trouser, try and stitch on top of that line. And just realign your hands every now and again, because obviously your arm can only go so far to the back of the machine. I'm just going to keep, I hope you can see that, I'm just going to keep sewing on top of that line. Take my pin out when I get to my side seam. We're going to repeat again another quarter all the way this time to our side seam of the trouser. That was the centre front seam, sorry. So we're now going to the side seam of our trouser. So find your chalk mark and stretch it in. It's going in actually just fine. I'm going to hold it, stretch it in, just make sure your pockets and everything's nicely lined up on the flat bed of your machine as you're sewing. So let's just keep going. Oh, I've got a wee tuck, so just keep going. And come back and fix that in a minute. Keep going, just try and stitch on top of those stitches. This keeps getting in the way, doesn't it? So you can see. And we're on the home straight now. We just want to get that fitting onto, you can see my hand, yeah, onto, there we've got the last mark and the last section to stretch in. So very good to do that sectioning. You would do that in quite a lot of similar settings, trying to sew and get pieces to fit evenly. Okay, so I'm going to just sew on round some on top of the stitches I started with here, and I'm going to break it off. Now you can see what we've done is we've actually sewn on our waistband. I can just put that up. You can see now we've got our waistband on our trouser. So it looks obviously much better when you look at it the right way. So one of the last bits to do is now on the overlocker I'm going to neaten those edges. If you have zigzag machine, or you could bind that. And then the last bit we might want to do is just top stitch that into place around the edge, and that's your trousers finished.